2004, and he was 34 years old at the time, an entrepreneur here in Denver who happened to live with a mental health condition, namely bipolar disorder. And, in the last few weeks of his life, as it was becoming very clear to the family that he was incredibly distressed, we were scrambling for resources. And, in the end, I think largely it was the stigma that killed him more than the illness itself. We had access to resources, all of that. He just didn't have a role model that showed him that as a man going through tough times, it's courageous to reach out and, get support in a way that gets your life back on track.
When we talk about suicide deaths, men of a working age really carry the burden. And we had historically done very little to reach this demographic. And so what Sally and I really do from a nonprofit and a public perspective is bring that suicide prevention expertise to the table, which has been invaluable. And, not just Sally and I and our two organizations, but we also brought together a group of national advisors who are nationally and internationally known in the suicide prevention and the behavioral health communities. And so having that expertise and leadership at the table from the get-go has been one of the reasons, in my opinion, why we've had so much success with Man Therapy.
So, I could add something there. So this process of partnering has been really the foundation of this program. And one of the things that I have learned over the last many years that we've been working together is that, mental health and suicide prevention in particular, we have a branding problem. We've just got a huge barrier as we're trying to message to the masses is that, people see us as dark, mysterious kind of conversation. It's scary, it's daunting. And so what I've learned is when you partner with a group like Cactus, who really understands how messaging can get through
Jared Heinman, the Violence and Suicide Prevention Section Manager at the Colorado Department of Public Health and Environment.
As a psychologist and a suicide prevention specialist, I have a strong professional interest in the work of Man Therapy. I also have a personal interest. I lost my younger brother to suicide in 2004. You are now able to reach so many more people because the messaging is so well crafted. And so that's been a big lesson for us. I mean, most mental health organizations, they've got, one part-time intern cranking out their messaging. And, and the thought is, well, if we just get the content out there, people will, appreciate it. And that's just really not how messaging works in this day and age.
On that note, I want to listen to Rich Mahogany, and then we're going to talk about what we're hearing, why we're hearing it, why it's there, and why he's saying what he's saying.
Did you know that men have feelings too? No, not just the hippies. All of us. Hello, I'm Dr. Rich Mahogany. Welcome to Man Therapy. Go ahead. This is your time. Click one of the buttons above to continue. Are there buttons? They said there were going to be buttons.
I love that part. That's our introduction to Rich Mahogany, and I'm still on the site, so we may hear him chime in, and that's one of the things. Let's just start there. It's sort of an active site. Their clips are almost like movie clips. It's a really great, and anybody who's listening to this needs to go to the website, mantherapy.org. It's phenomenal. I fell in love with it. He sits there, but it doesn't just go static. He's shifting around in his chair. He comments if the site is up too long and you haven't clicked on anything. You know, he gives you this, prompt like, let's go. Let's do this. Talk to me about just the opening and the greeting.
Go ahead, Jared.
So, Sally, I'll definitely let you describe some of the background research you did with the focus groups and the in-depth interviews. That's one of 3 video introductions that Dr. Mahogany gives, depending on when and where you click on the site. We just wanted to have some variety for return visitors, but those introduction videos really illustrate the crux of the approach that we decided to take. And we decided to take that approach through doing some pretty in-depth research and looking at other public health or advertising campaigns that are specifically targeted to men.
When we return, Dr. Rich Mahogany interrupts the interview, filleting a fish on the radio. Stay with us. Welcome back to Mindset, mental health news and information. If you're just joining us, we're talking about men and mental health. My guests, Sally Spencer Thomas and Jared Hyman, and Dr. Rich Mahogany, therapist in residence on the site, mantherapy.org.
We know that the research tells us that men are resistant to asking for help, and that men don't access traditional mental health services anywhere near the rate that women do. Now, obviously, there are men out there who have and have for a long time accessed traditional mental health services, but we built this site designed for those guys that may be struggling with some type of emotional and behavioral health issue. But
let me just pause you right there, because right now, if you click on this site, you hear that intro, and I'm letting it play, and that clicking you hear, that noise in the background, he's filleting a fish. Okay, he pulls up a cooler and he pulls out a fish. He pulls out a fillet knife and he actually fillets it while he's waiting on you to do something.
Super intentional. I think, first of all, it's really supposed to disarm somebody. People come to what they think is a mental health site with a certain set of expectations, and right off the bat, you're dealing with something different. Like, this is just not how that experience usually goes. Is that, first of all, someone's talking to you and they're trying to engage you, and then they're funny. All of the pieces, all of the videos of where he's sitting there and he's, his eyes are blinking and he's filleting a fish or he's cleaning up his office. For me, that message is like, you know what? I'm still here. I'm the hardest working therapist out there, 24/7, 365 days. I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere. So, you might go off and get distracted from some other things, but I'm going to let you know every once in a while. You can come back and I'll give you some more help or some more information. We hear feedback, especially about the filleting the fish, all the time about, that was so cool. I went off to look at my email and I hear this noise in the background and, he's cleaning his office. It's hilarious.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole point is how do we disarm men or put them at ease so that they're willing to engage in the website, and that's the role of Dr. Mahogany. So every piece of his presence in the website is to give a little bit of information, but also to put men at ease and to make them feel comfortable to stick around and to explore the site. And our analytics tell us that that's exactly what's happening. I mean, we've had over 500,000 visitors now to the site, and our average time of visit continues to be over 5 minutes, which for the industry is just remarkable. And so we've done something right to engage men, to invite them in, and to keep them at the site so they actually spend some time either taking the 18-point head inspection or exploring the resources that are available in a really thorough way, which is fantastic for us.
And we're going to play some more of Rich Mahogany. But let's just set the record straight. Rich Mahogany is not an actual therapist.
That is correct.
Right.
He is an actor. So he makes it pretty clear through a couple of the videos. He'll say things like, "Take it from me, I'm not even a real therapist," and so that he's merely a guide designed to walk men and people who care about men through the site.
Why does that work, Sally?
Even with all that disclaimer, though, we'll still get emails like, "What are your credentials? Who are you?"
Really?
Or can Rich Mahogany show up at this news media?
I'm going to play
this
some
event that we have.
soothing noises while you ponder
He's talking
your next
again.
move.
Oh, he's listening to chainsaw music.
Yeah, he's gonna. He's holding up an old-style cassette recorder, and there's this chainsaw playing in the background on this cassette recording, supposedly. Chainsaw music, Jared, is that what that's called?
That's what I call it anyway.
That's amazing. Let's go ahead and click through. And I'm going to click on the link to the left. There's arrows on the left or right. Man therapies. Let's listen to this part.
Did you know that unchecked issues like anger, sadness, squiggly smile, squigglies. What the is this? Stress. Oh, that's supposed to be stress. Stress, or even substance abuse, can lead to dangerous mental illness and even suicidal thoughts. It's true. Hello, I'm Dr. Rich Mahogany. Welcome to Man Therapy. You're the captain of this vessel, so click one of the options above to begin your voyage. What are you doing with my chart?
All right, Sally, go ahead.
As I was listening to those pieces from the website, it's clear that a lot of the humor actually comes through from visual pieces of the experience.
Talk to me about what we heard just a moment ago about, he goes off into talking about, stress and, stuff that's bothering you. And then he says squiggly line. He's got this flip chart in front of him. And, it's a complete sight gag, but at the same time, it's disruptive of what you expect, I suppose. Is that the idea behind it?
Yeah, one of the things that our research and development told us was that a lot of the men that we're trying to reach, we call them double jeopardy men with a number of risk factors who are also least likely to seek care on their own. They don't necessarily see their problems through a mental health framework. So they're not necessarily seeing themselves as depressed or anxious or whatever. What they often report is that they have a very stressful life. So there's things outside of them that are causing them distress or despair, relationships, family, jobs, etc., and that what they're mostly experiencing is stress. And so what we're trying to do with the website is actually to help them connect the dots and transition some of those experiences to acknowledge that there might be some more significant things going on there than just stress, and that there's certain benchmarks where they can again reach out for different types of resources. So that gag where he's starting to talk about are you experiencing these different things is a first attempt at that, because I think most people can acknowledge they have a certain level of stress in their lives, and sometimes it gets worse. And when it gets worse to a certain point, then other things start falling apart, and that's where they're trying to make that bridge.
Talk to me about that.
I would just add that traditionally, I think men hear the word depression or mental health, and they don't connect that things like stress and anxiety fit within that. And so, say, I think you're depressed. Men are like, I'm not depressed. That's not a manly thing. But if you talk about anger and anxiety and stress, then men can resonate with that a little bit. And so, like Sally said, it's really about connecting the dots.
Talk to me about that term that you use, Sally, and Jared obviously chime in on that as well. Double jeopardy men. Expand on that a little bit.
Yeah, so obviously this website isn't for all men. Whenever you try to create something for all people, you absolutely reach no one. We were very intentional to reach a certain subpopulation of men that we know is highest risk for suicide death. And that's men with multiple risk factors. So things like substance abuse, a strong sense of masculinity, people who are, very self-reliant and independent, people who, don't want to be the weak link in their team or, have that identity of being ill or broken, that kind of man.